Today on our Focus at 4, former Texas Governor Rick Perry is endorsing Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, for president. Rick Perry revealed his support in a new video released by Cruz's campaign. Check it out.
Howdy, I'm Rick Perry. 2016 is a critical election, and I'm here to stress to you how important it is for conservatives to rally together and support a consistent conservative candidate who will take on Washington and who can defeat the Democrat nominee. That's why I support Ted Cruz for president. As an Air Force veteran, I understand the sacrifices that our men and women in the military make every day to keep us safe. They deserve a commander-in-chief who values their service, who will keep our military strong, and who will always put America's national security interests first. He has proven that he is ready to serve as our commander-in-chief on day one. He's also proven the willingness to take on the Washington cartel and restore power and opportunity back to the people. He's proven that he'll do what is necessary to secure our borders, to defeat radical Islamic terrorism, and to ensure our brave veterans receive the care they've earned. Ted is the leader that we need to reignite the promise of America. That's why I'm supporting Ted Cruz and asking Iowa Republicans to caucus for Cruz next Monday, February the 1st.
We are joined now by Republican strategist Matt Mackowiak with Potomac Strategy Group out of Austin. Matt also ran Bill Flores's first congressional campaign, so we're pretty familiar with him around here. Matt, first question, were you expecting this endorsement from Governor Perry?
At some level, yes. I'd heard some rumblings about this in the past, month or so, but I don't think this was, necessarily an automatic endorsement from Perry. Perry and Cruz obviously were running for president against each other this time. They didn't overlap that much at the state level, and they didn't have much of a relationship. And so that's why I found it so interesting that the reporting showed that in December, Cruz spent 6 hours with Perry at his home in Round Top, getting to know him, answering questions, listening to him, hearing from Perry about his own concerns about the 10th Amendment and the Constitution. And so I think that began to give the governor a greater degree of comfort about Cruz. And Senator Cruz continued to call Perry several times after that, trying to earn his endorsement. So Perry now goes to Iowa 2 days this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. He's doing 10 different campaign events. And so, Perry has strong support in Iowa. As a person that finished 5th there 4 years ago, he has a lot of support in the agriculture and veterans communities. And he's going to be a strong voice in support of Cruz and against Trump for the next 2 days.
What is the common ground with Perry and Cruz? Surely there is a lot of it, but what are those big issues that they agree on?
Yeah, look, I think they both are, full base conservatives, right? I mean, from every angle, on foreign policy, on economic policy, and on social issues. And so I think they agree on a lot of the issues. Their roles were different. Obviously, it's different being a governor than being a senator. And a lot of times governors and senators from the same states don't have very close relationships because they're doing very different types of jobs. But if you look at Perry, he cares a lot about veterans. He cares a lot about national defense and foreign policy. He cares a lot about defending the Constitution. He cares a lot about border security. These are issues that Cruz agrees with him on and where they both share a passion and a similar ideological viewpoint.
Sure. How big of a win is this for Senator Cruz? What's this going to mean for him going into the primaries?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a huge surprise. He's a former governor of Texas endorsing a Texas U.S. senator.
Sure.
I think it helps probably more in Texas for the primary on March 1st than it does in Iowa. But look, endorsements at the end of a race can help, particularly when they add to the coalition that you have. The fact that Perry's going to go out on the campaign trail, that he's going to pull his supporters in from across the state, his county chairs, his precinct chairs, his staff, his volunteers from his previous runs for president. It's all additive to the Cruz effort, and it's going to give him some additional momentum, which is something you want in the last week.
Sure. So we see what Senator Cruz gets out of this endorsement. What does Governor Perry get out of it? Is there something here for him?
Yeah, look, I don't know that he was doing this to necessarily get anything out of it. I don't know that he necessarily needs anything. He's moving on to the next phase of his life. He's focused on private sector opportunities and defending himself against the legal charges that are still on appeal. But look, he could certainly be in the cabinet in Washington if Cruz were to be the nominee and win the presidency if he wanted to. He'd be a natural fit at energy or veterans affairs or commerce or agriculture or a number of other places. But I think at the end of the day, look, this is a Texan endorsing another Texan. He believes Cruz has the best chance to beat Trump, and he knows that Cruz is likely to win Texas. And so from a risk versus reward standpoint, this is fairly low risk for Perry.
Sure. You maybe already answered this question, I guess, with that last answer, but is there any chance that Perry could join the ticket as vice president? Do you think anybody's considering that?
Generally, I would say no. I mean, Cruz and Perry can't run together because they're from the same state, and the
Right.
Constitution doesn't allow that.
Oh,
But if Rubio or Christie or Jeb Bush or someone were to be the nominee, I think they're going to go for probably a woman or a minority, someone perhaps from a battleground state. Perry doesn't bring any of those things with him. I think he's a natural choice for the cabinet, but I think he's unlikely to be the vice presidential candidate.
interesting. Is this one example, you mentioned Donald Trump a little bit earlier, is this one example of certain sects of the Republican Party sort of joining forces against Donald Trump as the candidate?
A little bit. I mean, you saw that National Review magazine that was released on Friday night that had 22 different conservatives from different parts of the party, argue against Trump. And look, Perry was way ahead of the curve on this. He was
Right.
negative about Trump 6 months ago. He gave a speech to the National Press Club talking about how Trump was a cancer on conservatism. And I think, if anything, he's seen Trump grow in strength since that time. So I think he looked at the field, and he's friendly with Governor Christie. He's friendly with Governor Bush. Certainly knows Governor Kasich. They all served together. But I think he looked at Senator Cruz and said, this is someone who can beat Donald Trump, someone I agree with on issues, someone who's a solid conservative, and Cruz can win. And so I want to help him win as much as I want to make sure Trump doesn't win.
Sure. Well, they're quite the team out there on the campaign trail, and we'll be seeing a lot of them, I suppose. Matt Mackowiak from Potomac Strategy Group. Hey, thanks so much for being with us and giving us a little insight on what this endorsement really means.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Hey, coming up, stick with us. We have much more on First News at 4 right after the break.
You're watching